Hi, Arlington students and families. My name is Lauren Mosley, and today you usually hear his voice, but he's joining me in front of the camera. This is my son,
Aiden
Mosley. All right, so we're going to get started today with our Phonemic Awareness lesson. We'll be doing the same skills that we did last week in practicing adding, deleting, and substituting sounds in blends. All right, let's give it a try. I'll do the practice one first, and then Aiden will join me in saying the answers, okay? So for our practice one, the first one, I would say said, and you would say said, and then I would say add a ul, and we have sled. Sled would be the correct answer. All right, let's keep going with adding till we can make a blend. So Aiden's going to join me now. Gab.
Gab,
Add a r, and we have
grab,
good. Seize.
seize,
Add a n, and we have
sneeze,
sip.
sip,
Add a ul, and we have
slip,
good work. Cane.
cane,
Add a r, and we have
crane,
good job. Box.
box,
Add a ul, and we have
blocks,
sap.
sap,
Add a n, and we have
snap.
good job. All right, now let's move on to deleting or taking a phoneme away. So I'll do the example first, and then Aiden will join me. So our first example is break. I would say break, and then you would say break. And then I would say take off the r, and we have bake. If you said bake, that would be correct. So let's get started. Blend,
Blend,
take off the ul, and we have
bend,
good. Sway,
sway,
take off the w, and we have
say,
good. Frowned,
frown,
take off the r, and we have
found,
good. Stick,
stick,
take off the t, and we have
sick,
crash,
crash,
take off the r, and we have
cash,
spoil,
spoil,
take off the p, and we have
soil,
blank,
blank,
take off the ul, and we have
bank.
good work. All right, for our last set, we'll be substituting or switching out one of the blend sounds. So we'll start with a blend, and then we'll change it to make a new blend. So my first example will be brand, and you would also say brand, and then I would tell you change the r to ul, and we have bland. If you said bland, you would be correct. All right, let's try. We're going to get started with substituting. So crash,
Crash,
change the r to ul, and we have
clash,
good. Swore,
swore,
change the w to t, and we have
store,
good. Slate,
slate,
change the ul to k, and we have
skate,
good. Stool,
stool,
change the t to p, and we have
spool,
good. Frame,
frame,
change the r to ul, and we have
flame,
good. Steam,
steam,
change the t to k, and we have
scheme,
good. Play,
play,
change the ul to r, and we have
pray,
slow,
slow,
change the ul to n, and we have
snow,
good. Sneak,
sneak,
change the n to ul, and we have
sleek.
all right, good work. I'm so glad you've been able to practice phonemic awareness activities with us, and I hope you have a great rest of your summer.
Hello, I'm Amanda Dempsey, resource teacher for the gifted at Hoffman Boston Elementary School. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today we will continue with 5 more stems. The stems that we are going to work with today are aqua, audi, scrib, seed, and size. We'll begin with aqua. That means water. An example is aquarium. That's a tank of water with fish in it. Another example is aqueduct. An aqueduct was built by the Romans to bring water to the city. Our next stem is audi, which means hear. Your auditory system allows you to hear. An audience will hear you perform. Scrib means write. An example of this is a scribe. That's someone who writes things down. To describe something is to write a description. Seed means go. An example is recede. A flood goes back when it recedes. Proceed means when he or she goes first. Size means cut. Incisors are teeth that cut. Scissors, of course, I'm sure you've used in school, and they also cut. Can you think of more words with these 5 stems? Take a moment and try to think of some now. Some examples I thought of were aquatic, audiobook, transcribe, precede, and incisive. Now let's look at our analogy for this week. We have scribe is to writes. Well, if we think about this, a scribe writes. It's what they do. It's the action they perform. So we have person to the action. Looking at your choices, what do you think would complete this analogy? Yes, an audience hears. That is the action that is happening. Our advanced word this week is incisive. In means, well, in. And size, as we know, means cut. So this means cutting in. Incisive basically refers to a comment that cuts right into the point of the matter. What might be an incisive statement? How might you use incisive in a sentence? Try doing this now. Now it's time to practice our stems and review a couple from the last time. You're going to match the blue puzzle piece to the pink puzzle piece to make complete words. Try matching these now. All right, let's see how you did. We have aquamarine, auditory, describe, recede, inscribe, international, malevolent. How did you do? Your mission going forward. Continue to look for examples of all of the stems we've worked with and practice using them when you're talking to your friends and family. Practice using them in written form as well. You could do this by writing a story, it could be in journal entries, or even poetry. Enjoy using these stems. Bye!
Gemma, are you ready for your story? It says, the man came up from the basement and saw the woman standing just inside the front door. She was soaking wet with water dripping off her raincoat and pooling around her rain boots on the floor. "What happened to you?" the man asked. What do you think, Gemma? Yes, clearly the woman got caught in a rainstorm. She had her raincoat and boots on, but maybe she forgot her umbrella because it says she was soaking wet. That man needed to use the clues in the story, plus what he knows, and infer what happened. Oh, hi! I didn't see you there. This next part of your video today will be a reading lesson with me, Miss Kirch. During the school year, I teach at Claremont, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. When I'm reading, I know that authors often give information to readers without explicitly writing it in the story. The author instead provides readers with clues to help guide them to make an inference or draw a conclusion about what is happening in the story. An inference is an idea that the reader thinks. It's not something that is written right there in the text. Making inferences allows readers to understand ideas in the text on a deeper level. If you watched the reading video not last week but the week before, Miss Megan reminded us that it's important to monitor our comprehension, to recognize when we stop and think, wait, what? When we're reading. Sometimes when this happens, it's because the information isn't right there in the text. Instead, we need to make an inference. As a reader, you take the clues that the author gives and your background knowledge or what information you already know. When you put those together, you can make an inference, or sometimes we say draw a conclusion. These two things are slightly different, but we don't need to get into that today. Remember, not all of the information in a story is directly stated. Sometimes we, as readers, must make inferences by using those clues, those details in the text to understand the indirect language that is being used. For example, if a fire truck races by with its lights flashing and sirens blaring, we might infer that there has been an accident or someone is in trouble and needs help. Even though we have not seen the problem, we know that firefighters help people in need. We put the clue we saw together with what we know to make the inference. Now you try it. For the first part of the ride, Marta saw tall buildings and crowds of people. Yet, as they kept traveling, she was excited to see the barns, cows, and haystacks. What can you infer about the setting or settings in this passage? Are you thinking that she starts out in the city and then is traveling to more of a country setting? Good, you used the clues from the text, for example, the barn and the cows, plus what you already know. Those things are usually found in the country to make your inference. The author never said Marta traveled from the city to the country, but you inferred it. Great job! I have a good book for you. It's called The Outburst, and it's from Raz Plus. Maybe some of you have read it before. I like to start making inferences just from the title. The Outburst. I know that an outburst is when someone gets really angry or upset and kind of explodes or yells something out. I'm thinking that this happens at some point in the story. In fact, look at this character here on the cover. She looks like she's having an outburst. Were you noticing that too? If you're lucky enough to be reading a book with pictures, definitely look at those to help you understand what is happening. You know, I'm also thinking that this outburst, is probably a pretty important part in the story since they made it the title and the cover. Before we read, I know that an author does not directly state all the ideas in a story and that I must make inferences to completely understand the story. I know that good readers do this, so I'm going to keep making inferences as we read. The Outburst by Allison Sweeney, illustrated by Linda Pierce. Grandma and I are similar in so many ways. It's no wonder we are so close, like two peas in a pod. We are crazy about karaoke, concerned about the environment, serious chess players, and passionate writers. We can already tell that this character and her grandmother have a really good relationship. Grandma writes a famous mystery series starring her 5 grandchildren. I'm the lead detective, while I prefer to write poetry. Like all passionate writers, we share a love of words that led us to the habit of taping words to our bathroom mirrors. Famous quotes for Grandma and favorite words for me. That's why I never felt as horrid as the day I thought I ruined everything, like a wave crashing a breathtaking sandcastle. Oh, wow. One day, the character thought she ruined everything with her grandmother. I'm already thinking about what might happen, especially with that title, The Outburst. Are you thinking too? Let's see what happened. It was moving day, and Mom, Dad, and Grandma eagerly directed movers inside our antebellum North Carolina home. But my stomach was in a knot, and I needed air. Okay, so the other people are eagerly, excitedly, happily directing the movers around the house. Then the text says, but my stomach was in a knot and I needed air. Is that a good thing? No, it isn't. We read that the other characters are happy, but she isn't feeling good. We can infer that she isn't happy about the move. She isn't feeling great about it. Boing, boing, boing. It felt good to whack the basketball against the garage door. At least that hadn't changed from Pennsylvania to North Carolina. I tried to whack away the cloud of anxiety that had been hovering over me since I learned of the move last month. On the last day of school, actually. That's when Dad giddily broke the news about his fabulous new job about 1,000,000 miles away from friends and relatives. Life as I knew it was over, wrecked, finished, ruined. Okay, now we know that she isn't happy about moving. She is whacking that basketball against the garage door. She has anxiety, and she says her life is ruined. Please stop, Nina, Mom called from the kitchen window. You'll leave marks on the garage. Boing, boing, boing. I knew Dad despised his old job, but was it really that terrible? And was it necessary to leave the state to find a better one? Did he even try to look for a new employment in Pennsylvania? Hey, Sammy, your mother asked you to stop the banging, por favor, Dad called, trying his best to mimic Mom's Spanish accent. Aw, if he's trying his best to do a good Spanish accent, that probably means that he doesn't speak a lot of Spanish, at least not as much as her mom does. Hey, I just made another inference. Boing, boing, boing. But throughout the past month, I had never seen Dad so deliriously happy, humming, talking a mile a minute, and tickling Mom. His bliss means my misery, and that is so unfair I could scream. Boing, boing. Hey, watch it, bellowed a mover, rubbing his head where the ball struck. Grandma must have sensed my irritation, so she invited me to explore the trail behind our house, rescuing me from the angry glares. So, how's it going, Sam? It's going horribly, hideously, and horrifyingly awful. Look at my hair. I'm a complete frizzball. And this place is like a giant steam room. What can we infer about the weather there? It's probably really hot, right? Steam room, hot and humid. We'll get used to it, said Grandma. I do love how green and lush it is, though. Aristotle hit the nail on the head when he said, in all things of nature, there is something of the marvelous. Well, there's nothing marvelous about moving here. Do you realize I should be swimming with Kate and Jordan right now? I wonder how long it will take before they forget all about me. I know it's difficult, Sammy, but you'll make new friends. How? I screamed as my blood boiled. Everyone here already has their friends. They don't need an outsider nosing in and screwing up their relationships. Angry tears blurred my vision, and my heart pounded like hail on a roof. Benjamin Franklin said, "Do not anticipate trouble or worry about what may never happen. Keep in the sunlight." That's when I exploded like a firecracker. "Cállate! Shut up!" I wailed. "Your stupid quotes aren't helping." Now, readers, is she really upset with her grandmother? Is her grandmother the reason she's so mad? No. We know from before in the story that she is upset about having to move. She's also missing her old friends and is worried about making new ones. Those are clues that the story gives us. And I know that sometimes when people are upset about something, they end up taking it out on or yelling at someone else. I'm inferring that's what the character did here. The ugly words hung in the steamy air for several long minutes. I dreaded looking Grandma in the eye, and when I did, her eyes, appearing both concerned and stern, spoke volumes without her having to utter the words they intended to convey. Don't ever speak to me that way again. Then her mouth opened. "Samantha," She spoke slowly and softly. When Grandpa died, I was full of rage. And you know how I coped? I furiously wrote in my journal. Perhaps you can write poems about your feelings, and maybe that will keep your family from becoming human punching bags. I watched her walk down the trail, feeling more miserable and ashamed than I ever thought possible. What was the matter with me? Grandma's positive outlook and love of quotes are two of her most incredible qualities. They make her uniquely Grandma. Back at the house, I unpacked my room as quick as lightning. Luckily, everyone in the house was busy all day unpacking and arranging his or her own living space, leaving me uninterrupted time to think and to write. I scrawled in my journal all the crummy aspects of the move. I made lists of all the people, places, and things I'd miss. My Cuban cousins, my favorite soul food restaurant, and the secret hideaway in my old backyard where I could write in my journal undisturbed. I wrote a poem about my fright over not being good at making new friends. Once again, Grandma showed me her wisdom, and the anger and anxiety were safe inside my journal and almost entirely out of my head. All I wanted to do next was make up with Grandma for my horrible behavior. After serious brainstorming, I decided my apology would be a celebration of her, as well as her love of quotes. I went online using my newly hooked up computer and a search engine to find quotes featuring grandmothers, and then I made a collage using different colored paper, paints, stickers, and glitter. Before she looked at my handmade card, Grandma whirled around her room, showing me her furniture arrangement and the bird's nest outside her window in the longleaf pine. Then she plopped on the bed and beamed as she read aloud. Grandmas are moms with lots of frosting. Author unknown. A grandma is a little bit parent, a little bit teacher, and a little bit best friend, by G.W. Curtis. And if nothing is going well, call your grandmother, an Italian proverb. She hugged me tightly, told me apology accepted, and then said she loved me more than caramel-covered flan. Then she whispered in my ear, John Wayne said, courage is being scared to death, but saddling up anyway. So, saddle up, Sammy. And I did. She helped me find the strength to be brave. Well, readers, I hope you enjoyed that story. Today and every day when you are reading, remember that authors don't always use exact words to tell you something. Sometimes they leave clues, and we have to take those details from the story, plus some things we already know, and make the inference, come up with the idea for ourselves. Happy reading!
Hi everybody, it's Ms. Metz here from Barcroft Elementary. And today our theme of the day is quick. Sometimes I see some rabbits hopping across my yard and they're so quick I just barely see that white tail of theirs. Anyway, we're going to begin our lesson today with a number sense routine called Quick Images. You may remember that or be familiar with that. And then we're going to practice multiplying. And multiplying, of course, is a quick way of counting. So let's be quick about it and begin our lesson.
How many dots? How do you know?
There's 3 groups of 7, and 3 times 7 is 21. 21 dots because the bottom it showed 6, and then the top it had 1, and then there's 3 more. There's 3 in all. So that's 7 times 3, and that's 21.
Karad was really using the distributive property of multiplication. He was thinking about 3 groups of 6 plus 3 groups of 1. That's 18 plus 3. That makes 21. Let's try another example. How many dots? How do you know?
So I know that because there's 7 groups of 5.
Let's take a look and see how Anthony also uses the distributive property of multiplication.
6 groups of 5, and that equals 30. And there's a 5, and that equals 5, and 30 plus 5 equals 35.
The strand of math that we're going to be working on today is within the computation and estimation strand. We know we will be successful if we can multiply to find the product of 2 whole numbers. What is the same about all of these pictures? You notice there's a tray of cookies and some muffin tins, a dozen eggs in a carton. There are some Legos and some apps on an iPhone. What do you notice? Were you thinking that you noticed that there were rows and columns? That's right. All of these are examples of arrays. Can you say that word with me? Arrays. Arrays are an arrangement of objects in rows and columns. We can see here there's an example of a 5 by 3 array, 5 groups of 3, or a 3 by 5, 3 groups of 5. In either of these examples for the array, they show a product of 15. We're also going to be talking about the word digits. Say that with me. Digits. Digits are the symbols used to represent a numeral. In our number system, we have 10 digits. We can put different digits together to make numerals. You can see in this example, the numeral or the number 153 is made up of 3 different digits. The next term we want to review is expanded form. Say that with me. Expanded form. When we expand things, we make them bigger. Take a look at this example. We can write 243 in expanded form by putting the value of the 200. The 2 is 200. The 4 has a value of 40. And the 3 has a value of 3. Today we are going to be multiplying, and we're going to take a look at 3 different multiplication strategies. We're going to begin with the array model. We're going to show an area model. And finally, we're going to look at a partial product strategy. So let's begin. An array model is the most simple kind of model you might be making. An array model often requires you to build an array, maybe using base 10 blocks or Cuisenaire rods, or building it on grid paper. This model is going to show us how we're going to multiply 13 times 6. When multiplying big numbers, we need to remember to use grid paper. That might be a strategy to help us. We want to make an array using Cuisenaire rods. We can see here we have 13 groups of 6 Cuisenaire rods. Then, once we build the model, we want to trace the Cuisenaire rods and trace that array. And we're going to break apart the array into smaller facts that we know. So we're going to break this apart into 10 times 6. We know that's 60. We're going to break it apart into 3 times 6. We know that's 18. 60 and 18 are our partial products. They're the 2 smaller numbers we get when we multiply.
For our last step, we're going to combine or put together those partial products to find the whole product. So we're going to put together the product of 10 times 6 plus 6 times 3. And together that gives us 13 times 6, and that product is 78. Our second multiplication strategy we would call the area model. The area model is very similar to an array model. It's just that you don't need any special tools. You don't need base 10 blocks, or you don't need any grid paper. Let's take a look at how Tahiat is going to use the area model to multiply.
Well, I multiplied 14 times 13. So when I did that, I broke 14 times 13 up into 10 times 10 and 4 times 10 and then 3 times 10 and 3 times 4. So I added up the products 130 and 40. So 100 plus 40 plus 30 equaled 170. And then I added the product of this smaller array, 170 plus 12, which equaled 182. So the product of 14 times 13 is 182.
The final strategy that we're going to demonstrate today is called a partial product strategy. And I want you to pay close attention to how this strategy might relate to a more traditional algorithm or strategy that some parents and some kids may have learned. In this next example, I'm going to blend a combination of a more traditional algorithm with an area model and using expanded form to see how those partial products can help us to solve big multiplication problems. I'm going to be multiplying 42 times 38. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break apart my 42 into expanded form. So 40 and 2. And I'm just going to draw a line there. And I'm going to multiply that by 30 and 8. So there's my expanded form, 40 plus 2 and 30 plus 8. And I'm going to use this area model to show how it relates to a more traditional algorithm. In a traditional algorithm, you might start by multiplying 2 times 8, and 2 times 8 we know is 16. That's the same as this part of the area where we're multiplying 2 times 8, and we get 16 as a partial product. For our next step, we're going to think about multiplying 30 times 2. Remember, the value of that 3 is 30 times 2, and 30 times 2 is 60. Here's where we see that. 30 times 2 is 60. Here's how we're showing it on our array or our area model. So to start, we have this partial product is 76, the same that we can see it here. For our next step, we're going to multiply the 4, which has a value of 40. Multiplying 40 times 8. 40 times 8 is 320. That's the same as multiplying this 40 times 8 over here, and that's 320. There's our next partial product. And lastly, for the traditional algorithm, you would be multiplying this last part, 30 times 40, and 30 times 40 is 1,200. Here we have 30 times 40, and that's 1,200. And so if you combined those two parts, that would be 1,520. They're the same parts that we see here. Let's not forget to combine the 1,520 with what we have on the top, and then a 76 on the bottom to show our final product of 1,596. For our reflection today, let's think about a would you rather. Would you rather have a pool that is 35 by 15 feet or a pool that is 20 by 20 feet, the dimensions of the pool? I'd rather have the bigger pool. So which pool might be bigger? Let's take a listen to Karad and see which pool he would rather have.
I wanted to do 35 times 15 because it's way bigger than 20 times 20 because 20 times 20 is 400. Now, how I knew that the answer was 525 was because I did this multiplication box and I put 30 and 5 separate and 10 and 5 separate, and so I added it all together. 300 plus 150 equals 450. And then because there was no more space, I put 450 over here on the top. Then I did 450 plus 50 equals 500. Then I did 500 plus 25 equals 525. So I want to choose 35 times 15 FT because it's bigger, way bigger, not way bigger again, bigger than 20 times 20.
One of the things that teachers often hear from family members is parents want to be able to help their children, but they're not quite sure how. And what we want to be able to say to you is really listen to your child. Please feel free to watch instructional videos with your child, maybe from your child's teacher, or there are a great number of online sources. If I like to have kids watch Learn Zillion. Khan Academy is another free resource that often teaches math in a way similar to what we might be doing in the classroom. But be alert to some keywords. When we multiply, we're using the skills of partial products or an area model with partial products. When we teach division strategies, we often talk about finding partial quotients. Our strategies might be a little bit different than what you had been used to as a child, but it's just one of many ways to think about math. Another thing that I just want to mention is as the summer progresses or throughout the school year, if your child is working on an app, perhaps Dreambox, Dreambox is a way of tracking your child's success and then scaling back when your child is experiencing difficulty. So it's important that when your child uses Dreambox, that they are working independently. That means without the use of paper and pencil and without the use of manipulatives. So Dreambox has a hint or a help tool that your child can go to if needed. But really, we want to be able to make sure that the computer allows your child to grow individually. So if you give your child too much help or any help at all, you're going to find is that your kid is going to advance so much, and then it keeps getting more difficult and more difficult, thinking that your child might be ready for that growth, when in fact they just might need some more practice or different practice in that skill. So remember, we want to make sure that Dreambox is an independent practice for your child using only the online tools. And when you want to help your child, really listen to your child, see the strategy that they're using, and try to have your child teach you or research using some keywords and some reliable sources. Keep up the great work, and thanks for your support.
Hi, my name is Erin San. I'm a teacher and a mindfulness coach. What that means is I help people just like you use all of their senses to recognize what is happening in their life from moment to moment so that they can stress and worry a little bit less and smile a whole lot more. One of the beautiful mindfulness practices that I share with others is the practice of loving kindness. Loving kindness is exactly what it sounds like. It is sharing loving, kind thoughts and words and actions with other people in this world so that you can show them compassion from your heart. Compassion means trying to notice that other people are suffering and doing everything you can to try to help them feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more peaceful. When you can offer love and kindness from your heart, you not only make someone else feel good, but it can make you feel really good also. We're going to begin by coming into a comfortable seated position. Remember that sometimes we need to move our bodies a little bit before we're able to settle into a space of comfort and stillness. So once you're ready, arrive in that stillness. Maybe you can close your eyes and place one hand over your heart. If you'd like to keep the eyes open, that's okay too. Take a few breaths, noticing how it feels to breathe into the palm of your hand as your heart energy expands. Your heart is the center of love, kindness, and compassion, and it is said that those are currencies, like money, that we can mint or print for ourselves and spend as much as we want without ever going bankrupt. What that means is you have so much love in your heart, there's enough to go around to everyone in your world every single day of your life. So in this practice, we are going to spread that love through kind, compassionate thoughts to someone in your life who you know really needs it right now. So start to bring to mind a person in your life who you know may be suffering. Maybe they're having a hard time. Maybe they're facing challenges. And drawing from the energy of your heart, I'd like you to share these words in your mind directed to this person. You can say the words out loud or quietly in your own head. Imagine you're looking right in the eyes of this person. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe from harm. May you live in peace and know how very much you are loved. Just imagine wrapping these words around this person like a soft blanket that brings them comfort in the cold. You are wrapping them with the warm thoughts and the warm energy of your heart. And when you're ready, open your eyes and know that you can repeat those phrases, bringing anyone else to mind. You can repeat those phrases for yourself as well, giving yourself self-compassion as a way to ease any challenges or struggles that you may be dealing with as well. Thank you for sharing this loving kindness practice with us today. I look forward to practicing with you again soon.
Second Step lessons are created by Committee for Children, who owns and controls all rights therein. Permission was granted to district to make and broadcast this video for educational use only by district parents, families, teachers, and counselors with students currently learning via television broadcast due to the impact of COVID-19. No other use of this video or Second Step lessons is permitted. Committee for Children, 2020. Hi everyone, welcome back. To get started today, I'd like to show you 3 different pictures. As you look at the pictures, think about what they have in common, and that will give you some clues about what we're talking about today. Those pictures all show images of people helping or expressing concern for someone else. They're all showing compassion. Compassion is saying kind words or doing something helpful to show you care about how another person feels. Compassion is a skill that we can get better at by noticing how our friends are feeling. You might remember we've also talked about empathy before. Empathy is putting ourselves in someone else's shoes. This also helps us understand how someone else is feeling. When we're able to put ourselves in someone else's shoes, we can help our friends feel less lonely, provide them with support during hard times, and build stronger friendships. So today we're going to talk about how we can be more compassionate and respond to our friends when they're having a hard time. We're going to watch a video where one student is having a hard time. Pay attention to what his friends notice about him and if they decide to do something compassionate.
My friend Miguel hasn't lived here for very long. He's from Mexico. The other day when we were working on our essays, Miss Rosen came over and pointed out a lot of mistakes on Miguel's paper. He has a hard time writing English.
Miguel, it looks like you've used the word chicken here, when I think you meant to use the word kitchen.
Some of the other kids overheard and started laughing at him. He looked really upset. I know if that happened to me, I would have felt really embarrassed and frustrated. I've been getting to know Miguel better lately. He's really cool. I wanted to do something to help him feel better.
How do you think Miguel feels? Embarrassed, frustrated, angry? He put his head down, and that tells us a lot. What did Caden try to do to understand how Miguel felt? He put himself in Miguel's shoes. He used empathy. He thought about what it would be like to be Miguel in that situation. And he noticed that Miguel looked upset. Did you notice how some other students in the class did not respond with compassion? They laughed. Think about what Caden could say to Miguel to show that he cares. He could check in with him, see how he's doing, ask him if he wants help. Relate to him. Maybe say, I struggle with spelling too. When you say something that shows you care about another person and their problems, you are showing compassion. Another way to show compassion is to do something for the other person. Let's see what Caden does.
First, I asked the kids who were laughing at him how well they thought they could write an essay in Spanish. Then I leaned over and told Miguel I was finished with my essay, and I could help him with his. He seemed glad to have help with his essay, and glad to have a friend that'd stick up for him.
How do you think Miguel felt when Caden showed him compassion? Really glad, relieved, and probably grateful. How do you think it made Caden feel to show Miguel compassion? Happy, proud, like he did the right thing? That's the great thing about compassion. Even though we're saying or doing something nice for someone else when we show compassion, it makes us feel good too. And Caden was courageous enough to speak up and tell the other kids not to laugh and then show compassion towards Miguel. But sometimes it might be really difficult to show compassion. What might make it difficult? You might feel shy. You might not know what to say or do. Or in this case, you might be embarrassed to speak up for someone else. It's always a good idea to use empathy if you're struggling to know what to do. Imagine yourself in that situation and think, what would make me feel better? What might help me if that was happening to me? And then try that. Remember, showing compassion to someone who's having a hard time, it's the right thing to do. It will help that person feel better, and you'll feel good about doing it too. Showing compassion is an important part of empathy. It's a respectful way to respond when you notice how someone else is feeling. Imagine what your school or your community would be like if everyone showed compassion to one another. And it can start with you. See you on Wednesday.
Hola, queridos matemáticos. Yo soy la señorita Lua y estoy muy contenta de estar aquí el día de hoy. ¿Qué creen? Hoy vamos a celebrar un poquito con un baile. Pum, 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 pum. A ver, ¿estás bailando? Pum, 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 pum. Espero que sí. No me dejes bailando sola. Pum, 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 pum. Bueno, paremos ahí. Yo sé que estás tan emocionado como lo estoy yo. Así que el día de hoy no vamos a perder el tiempo y vamos a comenzar a aprender. Recuerda, poner atención, abrir tu mente y como siempre, nos vemos en la lección. ¡Hasta luego! Antes de empezar, necesitarás un papel y un lápiz, o una pizarra y un rotulador. Comenzaremos con una rutina numérica, que nos ayudará a pensar sobre los números de manera diferente. Nos ayudará a hacer conexiones entre los números. ¿Están listos? ¡Oh, eso parece! Pues a comenzar. A pensar. Lo primero que vemos aquí es una imagen que contiene un plato con muchísimas galletas de chispitas de chocolate. ¡Qué ricas se ven! Pero bueno, tenemos un trabajo que hacer. Y el trabajo es estimar cuántas galletas hay en el plato. Bueno, has escuchado de la estimación, ¿cierto? Es una aproximación de lo que tú piensas y crees que puede ser la respuesta. Pero hay que usar algún sistema o algo lógico para llegar a esa conclusión. Así que, ¿qué estrategia podrías usar para llegar a la estimación de cuántas galletas hay en ese plato? Piensa. Cuando termines, piensa, ¿cuántas calorías tiene todo ese plato de galletas si cada galleta tiene 100 calorías? Bueno, te daré unos minutos para pensar. ¿Qué estrategia usaste? ¿Estimaste? Pues ahora te contaré lo que hice yo. Pues yo conté la primera parte de las galletas
todas las galletas que sí se pueden ver y conté aproximadamente 14 galletas. Después de eso dije, yo creo que debajo de esas galletas está el doble. Así que multipliqué 14 galletas que puedo ver por 2 porque creo que el doble está escondida ahí debajo. Aunque no lo puedo ver, esa es mi estimación. Para hallar la cantidad de calorías, lo que hice fue multiplicar 28 galletas por 100 calorías. Y eso me dio 2.800 calorías. ¿Te imaginas? Eso es muchísimo. Ahora, un reto para ti. ¿Cuántos choco chips crees que hay en total? ¿Qué estrategia usarías? Quizás contaría lo que contiene una de las galletas para saber cuántas tendrían los demás. Recuerda, la estimación es una buena manera de aproximarse a la respuesta. Hoy es tu día de suerte. No más frustración. El día de hoy tenemos una lección sobre estrategias para los problemas de aplicación de la multiplicación y de la división. Después de esta lección, podrás identificar palabras claves y usar 4 pasos para resolver problemas de aplicación. ¿Estás listo? ¡Vamos allá! Lo primero que tenemos que hacer en cada lección es repasar el vocabulario. Aquí tenemos la palabra operaciones. Una operación es aquella que hacemos con las matemáticas. Por ejemplo, un problema te puede pedir que multipliques, que sumes, que dividas o que restes. También tenemos algo muy importante que se llaman las palabras claves. Estas palabras nos ayudan a decidir si un problema nos está pidiendo que multipliquemos o dividamos. Vamos a repasar las palabras de multiplicación. Estas palabras claves. Producto, por, cada uno, total. Y cuando te pide algo que sea el doble, el triple o el cuádruple de algo, es muy probable que puedas multiplicar. Recuerda que todas estas palabras tienen que ver con una suma repetida. Ahora, vamos a repetir la palabra producto aquí abajo porque el producto también es la respuesta de la multiplicación y un factor son los números que tú multiplicas para sacar esa respuesta o producto. Son muy importantes recordar estas palabras para la multiplicación. Ahora veamos la división. Tenemos entre, dividido, entre, dividir, repartir, compartir, grupos iguales, separar, agrupar y también mitad, tercio o cuarto. Todas estas palabras, cuando las leas en un problema, te pueden recordar que es un problema de división. Ahora, también tenemos las partes de una división. El divisor, que es el número que nos dice cuántos grupos tenemos que formar. El dividendo, que es el número que nos dice el total de lo que tenemos. Y el cociente, que es la respuesta de cuántos grupos podemos formar. Toma un segundo para repasar este vocabulario. Identifiquemos las palabras claves. A continuación vas a ver 3 problemas diferentes. Nuestro trabajo será identificar las palabras claves que nos ayuden a determinar qué operación vamos a usar. Así que vamos a comenzar con el número 1. Hay 12 marcadores en cada caja. Hay 15 cajas. ¿Cuántos marcadores hay en total? Estos problemas puede que sean facilitos, pero recuerda usar la estrategia que estamos usando sobre seleccionar palabras claves en problemas un poco más difíciles. ¡Comenzamos! Pues marcadores y cajas son las cosas que tenemos que encontrar, pero no nos dicen qué operación necesitamos. Así que vamos a usar la tabla que vimos hace unos minutos. Y vamos a pensar si hay una de esas palabras en una de las columnas de abajo. Por ejemplo, yo veo aquí que tenemos la palabra total. Y aquí también tenemos la palabra total. Eso me hace pensar que tenemos un problema de multiplicación. ¿Por qué? Porque queremos encontrar el total de 12 marcadores por 15 cajas. Así que vamos a continuar con el problema número 2. Léelo y piensa qué operación usarías. Bueno, ahora lo leo yo. Felipe y Elizabeth y Alberto quieren compartir 14 fichas en cantidades iguales. ¿Cuánto le tocará a cada niño? Pues aquí no sé si tenemos cantidades iguales, pero sí veo la palabra igual. Y esta palabra igual, pues la veo aquí, en esta sección que dice que queremos grupos iguales. Cantidades iguales y grupos iguales son muy parecidas. Así que voy a seleccionar la división y cantidades iguales. Sí, correcto. Este es un problema de división. Vamos a dividir 14 fichas entre los 3 amigos. Siguiente. Número 3. Marco quiere regalar 36 galletas entre 4 amigos. ¿Cuántas galletas recibirá cada uno? Cada amigo. Bueno, este es un poco confuso, porque veo aquí que cada uno está en la sección de multiplicación. Pero este no parece un problema de multiplicación, porque aquí queremos dividir. Tenemos esta palabra clave entre, y entre está aquí también en la tabla de las palabras claves. Entre es otra palabra para decir dividir, ¿sí? En grupos iguales. Queremos dividir las galletas entre grupos iguales para que cada uno de los 4 amigos reciba la misma cantidad. Así que vamos a dividir. Bueno, ya que hemos practicado identificar las palabras claves, ahora nos toca pensar en el proceso lógico de cómo resolver un problema. El mes pasado, María ha leído 424 páginas. Leyó todas esas páginas en 8 días. ¿Cuántas páginas leyó cada día? Recuerda, tenemos que usar los 4 pasos. Entender el problema, crear un plan, resolverlo y revisarlo. Toma unos segundos para ver si puedes completar los 4 pasos para este problema. Te espero. Bueno, continuamos. Te voy a mostrar lo que hice yo, con los 4 pasos. El mes pasado María ha leído 424 páginas. Leyó todas esas páginas en 8 días. Ay, María es una buena lectora. El paso 1. ¿Qué nos dice el problema? Pues sabemos que ha leído 424 páginas, sabemos que lo hizo en 8 días, y bueno, esos son los números claves y las palabras claves. Pero, ¿lo entiendo? Bueno, yo creo que el problema quiere saber cuántas leyó cada día. Cada día. Eso me parece que voy a usar la división. Sí, en el paso 2 tengo que elegir qué operación voy a usar. Y para eso tengo que dividir para saber cuántas páginas leyó cada uno de esos 8 días. Vamos al paso 3. Voy a dividir 424 entre 8 días. Sí, vamos a ver qué me da. Usaré el algoritmo tradicional de la división para sacar mi respuesta. 8 no entra a 4, así que pongo un 0. Pero 5 por 8 sí me da 40, así que lo resto de 42. Continúo y me bajo el 2, bajo el 4 y ahora pienso, 8 entra a 24, ¿cuántas veces? Pues 3. Así que pongo 24 menos 24 me da 0. Una división fácil, pero vamos a ver si es la respuesta correcta. ¿Tendrá sentido? Vamos a ver. Pues aquí tengo 53 por 8, que es la operación opuesta. O sea, si yo multiplico 53 páginas por 8 días, ¿me dará la respuesta del total de páginas que ha leído María? Pues sí, sí me las dio. Así que sí, este problema tiene sentido y sí es correcto. Ella leyó 53 páginas cada día. Tomen un segundo para ver los pasos. Bueno, es tu turno. Hemos llegado a la reflexión. Este momento es para que pienses. Así que usa las siguientes expresiones para crear dos problemas. Tenemos 345 dividido entre 5 y 345 por 5. Ahora, crea un problema de aplicación o problema verbal de multiplicación y crea otro de división. Para esta reflexión, quiero que pienses. ¿Qué palabras claves usarías? ¿Qué diferencias y similitudes notas? Diferencia, pues es diferente. Y similitudes significa qué hay de diferente, de similar. También quiero que me digas, ¿cómo resolverías los problemas? Toma un momento y escríbelo en tu cuaderno. Escribe esos dos problemas y compártelos con un compañero o con un adulto. ¿Qué notas? ¿Usaste las mismas palabras? Espero que no. Y espero que te retes a encontrar un problema, pues no tan fácil. Ahora, familias, gracias por apoyar el aprendizaje de matemáticas de nuestros estudiantes. A continuación verán una actividad que pueden hacer en casa para seguir practicando. ¿Estamos listos? Vamos. La actividad que tengo para ustedes hoy es tomar turnos en casa usando los nombres de la familia para crear pequeños problemas cotidianos. ¿Qué significa eso? Pues quizás usas el nombre de tu tío o el nombre de tu mamá para crear un problema pues que tenga que ver con lo que hacen todos los días en casa. Algo familiar, algo que les interese. Para retarse, intenten crear problemas de más de un paso, con diferentes operaciones. Ahora les daré un ejemplo. Aquí tenemos los dos problemas de ejemplo. En el primero vamos a ver un problema de un solo paso. Marco, Lupe y Juan quieren hacer un pastel. La receta pide que pongamos 674 gramos de harina para un pastel que será para 6 personas. Pero ellos solo son 3. Así que, ¿cuánta harina necesitarán? Este es un buen ejemplo de un problema de un paso que podrían crear en el momento, cuando estén cocinando, cuando estén haciendo alguna actividad, jugando, organizando algo. Así que vamos a ver ahora el problema de 2 pasos o de varios pasos. Mami compró 12 cajas de helado para una fiesta de cumpleaños. Lamentablemente 2 de esas cajas se derritieron en el carro. Cada caja tiene 8 helados. ¿Cuántos helados quedaron para la fiesta? Pues aquí, como pueden ver, tenemos que determinar cuántos helados se echaron a perder y cuántos nos quedaron. Así que tenemos 2 pasos. Muy importante también recordar que cuando hagamos este tipo de problemas vamos a buscar las palabras claves. También recordemos que para desarrollar el vocabulario de nuestros hijos necesitamos la lectura. Entre más lean y más sepan y más puedan identificar y entender mientras lean, mejor les va a ir con este tipo de problemas. También hay que seguir practicando la fluidez de multiplicación y de división, de cualquier manera que sea más divertida para ellos. Y por último, la práctica. Práctica, práctica, práctica. Para poder tener buenos resultados en este tipo de problemas hay que practicar. Y bueno, espero que les haya gustado este video. Muchas gracias.